In the heart of the wilderness, where moonlight touches ancient trees, we huddle together. The fire crackles, its warmth a fragile shield against the unknown. Tonight, we share stories. Dark whispers that crawl up our spines, leaving goosebumps in their wake. Welcome to Scary States of America. Number 10. The Biltmore Hotel in Miami, Florida. The Biltmore Hotel was built in 1926 and became the go-to location for those looking for a grand hotel experience. Following World War II, the Biltmore was eventually restored to its former glory and became a hotel that the wealthy and powerful enjoyed. A common haunting report over the years is the ghosts of the soldiers that lost their lives in the hotel continue to roam its hallways to this day. Witnesses claim to have seen men wandering the grounds in what can only be described as old uniforms worn by the military in World War II. Another thing that happens frequently, the elevator will randomly go to the 13th floor. The 13th floor was the location where Thomas Fatty Walsh, a gangster, was murdered. The number 13 seems to do just fine all by itself, don't you think? Number 9. Key West Cemetery in Key West, Florida. In the Key West Cemetery, there were about 100,000 people buried here. It is a 19-acre cemetery that is popular among locals and visitors, and there are more people buried here than live in Key West. In 1847, this cemetery was established, and the motivating factor was the hurricane that hit Key West and killed many, many thousands of people. This hurricane also washed away many of the graves in other cemeteries in Key West. This is a very haunted place. Some specific ghosts of Key West Cemetery. Travelers from the Bahamas would often come to Key West in order to make a better living or find a spouse here. One of the ghosts of the cemetery was a Bahamian woman. Tour groups, staff members, and visitors has said that they have seen this woman in the cemetery during the day and at night. She gets very angry if visitors sit down on tombstones or if they walk across the graves in the cemetery. Well, wouldn't you? Have some respect. Number 8. Castillo de San Marcos in St. Augustine, Florida. Constructed in 1672 by the Spanish government, St. Augustine's Castillo de San Marcos passed through a few hands, until eventually coming into the possession of the U.S. military. The distinctive star-shaped fortification is known for housing hundreds of Native American prisoners and ruthless European soldiers. It's this military past that has been identified as the cause for the paranormal activity in the fort. This is the home of threatening shadow people and headless chiefs. The Castillo de San Marcos is constructed out of coquina, a semi-rare form of limestone. If you know anything about limestone, it can be a conduit for ghostly activity, and there's plenty of ghosts here. You may encounter Osceola's headless corpse within the walls of this old fortress. Osceola was a Native American leader and member of the Seminole tribe, a cunning chief. He managed to avoid capture by the military during the Second Seminole War, 1835 to 1842. That was until 1837 when he was tricked into custody with a false truce and transported to the fort here, along with his 200 men. While in South Carolina, only 3 months after his capture, the Native American leader died of quinsy, an infection in the back of his throat. Before the funeral, while the doctor was alone preparing the body, he cut off Osceola's head and wrapped the cut with a scarf. It didn't stop there, though. He also took some of the belongings the chief was to be buried with. A friend? I don't think so. To preserve the head, a witch doctor placed it in a large jar with alcohol before bringing it to St. Augustine and displaying it in his drugstore. Number 7. Ashley's Restaurant in Rockledge, Florida. Ashley's Restaurant is housed in a turn-of-the-century Tudor-style wood building with the unique history that makes this Space Coast restaurant a hotspot for ghost hunters. As the story goes, in the early 30s, a 19-year-old girl and regular at the establishment was brutally murdered and found nearby, on the shores of the Indian River. The restaurant was one of the last places she was seen. Ghost hunters and psychics had said that they believe she was killed at the restaurant, and her spirit is said to remain trapped inside. You may see her shoes in the stall next to you in the women's restaurant. Glimpse a flash of her reflection in the mirror. Watch the lights flicker and glasses crash to the floor. Some people say they have watched furniture move in front of their eyes. And she's not the only spirit that ghost hunters and others have reportedly sensed at Ashley's restaurants. Others say they feel the ghost of an older man who used to live upstairs, or someone from an accident on the highway. It seems to be a portal, if you will. Number 6. The St. Augustine Lighthouse. One of the lighthouse's first keepers was a man named Peter Rasmussen. He was known for his meticulous eye and watchful manner of maintaining the lighthouse. He was also known for his love of cigars, and is one of the first ghosts that people report coming into contact with. Over the years, the smell of Peter's cigar has been detected by many, including staff members and guests. Others have seen and heard another shopkeeper, Joseph Andrew. Others have seen and heard another keeper, Joseph Andrew, at the top of the tower, only he's been dead for more than a century. His presence at the lighthouse could be explained by the fact that he fell to his death while painting the outside of the tower. His spirit never left, and is often seen looking out from the top. Number 5. Bellany Bridge in Mariana. Built in 1914, this steel frame bridge is over 100 years old, and the oldest of its kind in Florida. Elizabeth Bellany and her husband Samuel had been married for 3 years when she died in 1837. Elizabeth actually died from fever, and her infant son died a week later from the same illness. Her husband became deeply depressed and turned to alcohol. 15 years after her death, he used a straight razor to end his life at the Chattahoochee Landing. He was not buried next to his bride despite his last request. Sightings of a ghostly woman near the bridge have been reported since the late 1800s. She's still looking for her husband to this day. Number 4. The Tampa Theater. The Tampa Theater, built in 1926. The Tampa Theater has been putting on shows since the 20s, but behind the curtains and behind the stage, the ghosts and spirits have been putting on their own shows, like in the manager's office. People in the lobby have heard keys rattling up here like someone is trying to find the right key to fit into the lock. There also seems to be a particular seat that is haunted. Seat 308. No one knows why, but you can always see a man sitting there in a fedora, watching the shows. Even ghosts like theater. It's a known fact. Number 3. Apollo 1, Launch Complex 34. Complex 34 was envisioned as a major launch pad for NASA, until tragically, 3 astronauts died in a cabin fire in 1967. The launch pad was shut down and stands as a memorial to the fallen astronauts. Paranormal activity has been reported here, from mysterious screaming to a sudden overwhelming sense of dread. It can be visited as part of a special tour offered through the Kennedy Space Center. Number 2. The Arcadia Opera House. Another haunted theater. We seem to have a theme here. Ghosts like theaters. This 1905 theater is currently occupied by an antique store and museum. The theater has been rumored to be haunted by a little girl who some say jumped out the second-story window. Phantom footsteps and laughter have also been heard here. No one should let the thought of this place being an opera house fool them that there is nothing more to it. Many weird things have been known to occur at this infamous opera house. It's rumored that an incident occurred in the opera house in which the noise of a crowd could be heard in the auditorium area, but no one was in the room at all. It's like the ghosts put on their own shows with their own audiences. Other eerie noises have been heard at the location as well. Such sounds include the laughter of footsteps of children. Number 1. Robert the Haunted Doll. The doll originally belonged to Robert Eugene Otto, an artist described as eccentric, who belonged to a prominent Key West family. Again, Key West. The doll was reportedly manufactured by the Steiff Company of Germany, purchased by Otto's grandfather while on a trip to Germany in 1904, and given to young Otto as a birthday gift. The doll's sailor suit was likely an outfit that Otto wore as a child. Legend has it, the doll has supernatural abilities that allow it to move, change its facial expression, and make giggling sounds. Some versions of the legend claim that a young girl of Bahamian descent gave Otto the doll as a gift or as retaliation for a wrongdoing. Other stories claim that the doll moved voodoo figurines around the room and was aware of what went on around him. Other legends claim that the doll vanished after Otto's house changed ownership a number of times after his death, or that young Otto triggered the doll's supernatural powers by blaming his childhood mishaps on the doll. According to local folklore, the doll has caused car accidents, broken bones, job loss, divorce, a cornucopia of other misfortunes, and museum visitors supposedly experience post-visit misfortunes for failing to respect Robert.